everybody. Welcome to a YouTube stream that actually seems to be working, according to what I can see on this screen over here, which is a Chrome browser that is in incognito mode because I'm not allowed to watch my own stream while I'm logged into YouTube. The page just spazzes the hell out for reasons I do not understand. Hello, Tater. Hello, Dwayne. It seems to be working tonight. Yeah, I'm glad to have external validation on that. I tested stuff earlier. It seemed to be okay. Normally, I keep the stream deck, if you will, running on the Mac over there so I can see it out of the corner of my eye, make sure everything's cool. It seemed like it was doing something, and then when I tried to view it on the monitor here, it just went completely doolally on me in a weird way. It kept flashing the page and then said that there was an error. So I may need to clean some stuff on the browser. And hello, yes, it has been a while, hasn't it? For, well, I mean, I haven't been on YouTube for 2 weeks because last week's stream did not work because YouTube was a big giant turd. Although we later found out that it was probably being a big giant turd for everybody. So we switched over to Twitch instead for last Tuesday's stream. But Tater has been unwell for a little while. Hopefully you're feeling better now. You know, you were playing with oh, I should probably not have that up. That's not going to help anybody when it happens. You're what? Bye, Walt. I moved my feet and Walt is unhappy. How did the game with Jadles go earlier? Oh, unfortunately, I had to jump into a quick call with a coworker, and I missed a fair portion of the game that was going on. How is everybody's day going? It has been rather an exciting week, I would say, for those of us in the Sublime Text world, because Sublime Text 4 publicly actually launched completely out of the blue, I might add. I mean, mostly completely out of the blue. There was a message that said coming soon, and then the next day, boom, there we go, less than 24 hours. So I scrambled to get this week's video done, and even then I spent all day Saturday, well, not all day, you know, I have other things to do, but Saturday evening, Sunday evening, most of Monday, and also a part of Friday and a little bit of Thursday as well, getting that video ready to go. That was a big one. I actually had some stuff pre-recorded for that, but some of it was recorded over here before the new video setup, so I decided to ditch it and just get a fresh one instead. I noticed you're still having issues, something to do with the router being all funky. Hopefully you can get that all sorted out. I miss your streams and the ability to make Tater remotes in them. Oh, so it has been a day, if you will. I haven't even had a chance to play Minecraft or anything else. I've been so busy with stuff. So here is the plan. Talk about Sublime Text 4, work on a plugin or so, and see how things go. See if YouTube is cool with things continuing to work for the remainder of the stream. Now remember, if you have any questions about anything we're doing or anything we're not doing, feel free to throw those in the chat, and I will answer to the best of my ability. But there is some stuff. One thing in particular that was asked in the comments section, actually, of one of the video that launched yesterday, but I thought would be fun to sort of play around with. Oh, I'm going to press the button. We're all stretched out. I went to bed fairly early last night, all things told. Actually, I fell asleep on the couch and then found my way to bed. I never actually checked to see how much sleep that it said that I actually got. 6 hours, that cannot be right. Good sleep, though. I really conked myself out after staying up ridiculously late for 2 days in a row. Still working. Hey. Engineers, I have found, do in fact lie about that sort of action. Yeah. I have a coworker that has a similar problem. I may have... Hello, welcome. How's your day going, sir? I have a coworker. Now, I've been told this story before. He used to live really close to me for a long time We actually worked out of his house. He rented one floor of his house to our company because it was a ridiculously big house. And then he decided to move up north. And as he was moving up north, he needed to make sure that he had everything set up because we are in a technology company and he was going to be working from home. He needed good, fast internet. So we talked to the telephone company, as the DSL was the only way to get internet out there of the speed necessary and the latency necessary for what it is that we do. And they told him he could totally have the super high-speed internet. And they started charging him for same. And he kept charging him for, I think it was 6-7 months. I can't remember the time exactly. For super high-speed internet, he never got that fast of a speed. He had several engineers come out and tell him that things seemed to be okay. One engineer said this line looks a little bit rusty and replaced one of the phone line segments with another one. Still never really got up to full speed. Finally, he called the office and wanted to know what the hell was going on, and was told after 7 months of paying for high-speed internet that in fact he was too far out of town and could not get the high-speed internet, but they weren't really willing to refund him any of his money. So there's a reason why my cell phone is not with that company, and neither is anything else, but I am well aware of that sort of thing. That is ridiculous. So here's the plan for the first part of this evening here, unless somebody has any questions about Sublime Text 4 or what to do with it. There's this theory, see, that you might have a Python program, and you might use Terminus to execute the build. And if you did, you might end up with a tab. Say you're using Terminus to run things in a tab instead of in a panel at the bottom of the window. What if you wanted to have the build be split like this? Now, normally we would do something like this in Terminus by using origami and using its carry file to pane command to split the layout. But Sublime Text 4 has this notion of tab selection, the ability to take this tab and connect it to this tab. If you have a question, you may ask it, and I may well have an answer, unless the question is why, in which case I don't know. That's interesting. I personally don't have any experience with WSL 1 or 2, but I'm pretty sure that I have heard that the main problem people have with using it is that WSL2 doesn't trigger file system notifications, but that's probably running it in Windows and then trying to access files from WSL. Well, there you go. If it can't run GUI applications, then that would definitely be a showstopper for that. Is it supposed to be able to do that? Does it run an X server of some sort? I think most people that do use WSL with Sublime actually do what Mike mentioned there. That's very odd. There you go. See, yeah, every time I believe I've heard of people trying to actually run it in there, but more often than not, a fair amount of people just run it in Windows and access their files from inside over the network share. And then the problem there is that WSL doesn't trigger file system notifications because I think, as Ben pointed out, that would probably require too much coordination between both kernels. So it would need some sort of polling system to be able to check. So you have to manually refresh stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any direct experience with that myself. I just run Linux directly, as we see here. I've been meaning to actually play with that a little bit, but I don't know that it'll work on the main system that I would do it on would be this one over here to my left, and for weird corporate reasons, we're stuck on the build of Windows 10 from 2018. And as a result, I can't even run Windows Terminal on it, and Docker Desktop refuses to update anymore. So not a lot to be done about that. Let's see. Yeah, let's replace that. If you use that, what's a good what sort of stuff do you do? Like just regular Linux development, and you want to do it from a Windows box and not from a Linux box, and you don't want to use a Docker container? I actually use Commander so that I can type ls and not break my head. I tried for a while to use PowerShell, but I had weird issues with it. And also on this system, it is ridiculously slow. I thought that was actually an issue with PowerShell itself, but it turns out it's probably just this system because it works really fast on my other laptop. No, that's not going to work. Oh, need a build system. Okay, so here's a theory. What if we had a Python build like y'all? Ow. Yeah, no, that wasn't the problem that I had with it, but mostly it has to do with, like I use Terminus, for example. So I hit the key like this. Here, Bash just instantly displays. On my Windows system out there, PowerShell starts up fairly fast. In Windows Terminal, it's near instant. On this system, when I do this, I can wait anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds for PowerShell to actually finish launching. And I don't even have any, the only thing I have is some sort of fancy prompt for Git thing installed. So, you know. So many people have been talking about that lately. Switching to Linux. People keep asking me, what Linux distribution do you use? And my answer to that is Slackware is the Linux distribution I use. And if you're new to Linux, you probably don't want to use Slackware unless you really want to get into the nitty gritty of stuff. Yeah, I kind of thought you're not the first one to do that, though. There's been a few people that have been asking that sort of thing. The only custom thing that I have in there, I can't remember what it's called, like Fancy Git or something like that. Basically, the thing that does, the thing that does this to the prompt. That's the only thing that's in there, and it, like I say, it started ridiculously slow, like it was like 4 or 5 seconds, and I gave up on it. But recently, from the Sublime Text Discord, Hacky Sack told me I should try Windows Terminal and use PowerShell in there, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but it actually starts in a snap. It doesn't do that here, though, so I think it's just a criminally old PoshGit. There you go. I knew it had Git in the name, and it was something fancy. Hello, Pablo, and I definitely find it funny that that's the case. I've mentioned this before. We use Slackware Linux, and there's no real raison d'etre to that except, at this point, inertia, by and large. There was the first one that I started using 20 years ago, and I've just been using it ever since. My coworker was using it for, I don't know, he was the one that said that's the one that he was using, so I started using it because same reason I was using Vim. If you're going to have somebody that's going to be sitting there that you can ask questions of, hey, why the hell not try a new thing? And here I am over 20 years later still using the exact same thing. The default file system for Linux is ext4 now, I think. At least as far as the systems that I use. Slackware has a couple of main distinctions, and one of them being that it doesn't have systemd, and the other one being the the package ecosystem doesn't work the same as it does in Debian and Ubuntu. There are packages, you can install them, but they don't track dependencies. They require you to make sure that dependencies for things that you install are already there, because dependency management is a big pain in the butt. I have used Ubuntu a little bit, but I was not a fan. Interesting. Some of our production systems are actually CentOS, for better or worse. We got told we weren't allowed to use Slackware for some stuff, so we had to use CentOS. And shortly after that, that whole CentOS 8 is going away thing rolled down, and that was the unfortunate. Anything special in here? I don't think so. Oh. The build system is set all funky, isn't it? Wow, it's set to nothing? Well, how the hell did they do that? Okay, so we probably need to add some stuff to that. Is that what you settled on? Or did you say up there which one you were actually going to use? I think I just noticed you saying that once you're, yeah, so you're shifting to Linux as soon as you get the SSD. Interesting. What makes Arch more of a learning curve than, say, Ubuntu and stuff? I don't really, 'cause I don't have a lot of experience with Ubuntu. It seemed like it's kind of trying to be, well, specifically their launcher is trying to be something that's sort of a cross between macOS and Windows as far as usability is concerned. The thing that I didn't like about it is I'm not used to that sort of thing. I wanted to get at the actual config files to set some stuff up, and it did not want me to do so, and I got kind of cranky about it. There we go. So, interesting. It's so sort of like the Sublime Text of Linux distributions, so to speak. In as much as you have to add stuff in. That kind of reminds me of Red Hat back in the day. How do I get the retro file tabs? There is a video for that. It's this one. As a matter of fact, this is the video, and that will take you directly to the point for that particular thing. But the actual thing you want is no, not that one. Thank you very much. File tab style. You can set file tab style to angled, and you will get the old Sublime Text 3 style angled tabs. If you do that, then inactive pane dimming won't work for you. And what am I doing here? I mentioned earlier in the very beginning of the stream, but we can go over that again. Someone asked me in a question, actually on the video that dropped just yesterday, how to use multi-tab selection with Terminus build so that we could do this and end up with this, with the program on the left and the actual output of the thing on the right. I'm having some funky key binding issues here at the moment. Oh, right, because I don't have that set up. Shoot. Well, there's not too many key bindings that are different between 3 and 4, all things being equal. the two things that come directly to mind is that the key for, I don't even know where this stuff is in the menu. The join key, the key for joining lines together is different than what it was before. It's Control-Shift-J instead of Control-J, and that's because Control-J is now used for tab selection, for being able to select multiple tabs with the key binding, like Control-J, Control-Shift-Right, for example. So Control-J, whoops, that's the wrong key, pardon me, Control-J, Control-Shift-Right to add that to the selection. There is, yeah, if you do preferences key bindings, you end up with the window. The one on the left is all the default key bindings, and the one on the right is your custom one, which is going to start off empty, and then what you do is anything that you want to bind, you take the version from the left, copy it to the right, and then like if you wanted Control Q to be something different, you would copy this one over to the right and change what the command is. Or if you want this command to be on a different key, you copy this over and change the key instead. Yeah, that's the the thing that I really liked about that. If you try to, well, oh man, why is that working? That's interesting. I may have some funky key binds of my own here, all things being equal. Let's see. There we go. Hey, there's something oh, hey, that's interesting. Yeah. Control-J is now Control-Shift-J. And as a fun fact on this, I use that key like a lot. It took me like a day or so to get that. The very first builds didn't have this little box that pops up on when you push Control-J a couple of times. But so it was sort of fun to find that. But it took so little time to get my brain used to that I was doing something in Sublime Text. Whoops, not Sublime Text 2. Well, I guess that would have done too. But I was doing something in Sublime Text 3, and my brain just would not let me join lines anymore as a result, which is kind of funky. So here's a fun thing. Worked there. Why did that seem to work for a second? That's odd. Indeed, yeah. I haven't gotten those particular key bindings under my fingers yet. I tend to do it that way, or via that. Well, that's not really a good way to like this. Or yeah, it's okay. You can close that without saving. Or if you hover the mouse over this, Control-Click opens a tab to the right, so I can Control-Click and do the same thing. I've been tending to do it that way. I think I do want to get those key bindings more committed to memory, but I think I need to use a slightly different one. Maybe even the origami keys for that matter. Control-J, Control-Shift-Right for some reason doesn't flow as well for me as I would like. Not that that's really any indication. But so the thing that we're doing here is trying to make a build system with Terminus that automatically does this, so that when the program runs, it automatically flips the tab over to the right. And on the face of it, I think that's a pretty easy thing to do, because anytime a new tab is created, it always is adjacent to the one that was currently active, right? So if there was like a bunch of these over here and this is the one, it's always added to the right of the currently active tab, which means it should be pretty easy to tweak that up. Hello, welcome to the stream. Is the Linux super key binded to something? Because I use the super key. I don't, not in my window manager, possibly in others, but I use the super key a ton as well. For example, these keys here. for the plugin that we were working on last week, as a matter of fact, because last week's YouTube stream actually happened on Twitch instead of YouTube because YouTube refused to send my stream data to anybody, including myself. But this is the thing where you can mark out regions of text, and they'll go, and then Super Shift E clears them all away. It's an example of a plugin. Whenever I'm working on a new command of some sort in a plugin, I almost always bind it to Super T so that I can test things really easily. You can see that as an example right here. I had to use two different ones to do this because the chain command is actually built into Sublime Text. Now, I'd like to take a slight modicum of credit for that because we were talking about it in a stream and Ben was here and he said maybe I'll just add that, and then he did. And now chain of command and multi-command, two packages that no longer need to exist. And that's why there's two different ways to bind the arguments to these things, because this is the way that chain of command does it and this is the way that multi-command does it. But yeah, I would say you're probably fine with the super key. You might find some combinations with the Alt key might not do what you expect. I have a vague recollection way back in the day of having to tweak some of those key bindings a little bit. Man, and that's going back a long time because I was using Blender at the time. But my window manager in particular, which is XFCE, had some bindings on Alt and the Alt for clicking along with other bindings. I can't even remember what they are now for grabbing windows and moving them and stuff. So in order to use those, you have to configure the window manager. Fortunately, unlike Windows and to some degree Mac OS, that's fairly easy to do in most window managers. They usually let you change whatever keys you like. Windows very much thinks that it should have the use of the super key all to itself for most things. And Mac OS is pretty good about being able to configure stuff. So. Is this a Sublime Discord implementation? No. That I do not have. Yeah, Control-Shift-J joins lines, so whatever two lines are, it'll stick them together. Whoops. Should probably push the correct thing. That used to be Control-J, but now it's slightly different because of the new items in tab selection here. They use Control-J for that. Basically using key chords because there's only so many keys to use. Select to the left, select to the right. Oh, Control-J, Control page up. That's fun. That seems more weighty to me than just doing. I'm more used to doing that. I'm using Alt and the number keys there, by the way. If you have multiple splits in the window, like I do here, then Control and a number key switches the focus between the different groups. They're numbered in the order that they were created, but inside of a particular group, the Alt plus the number key switches to a specific tab. So if you don't have tons and tons of tabs open, that's a pretty quick way to grab at stuff. And in that vein, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. But if these two are selected, then now that one's 1 and that one's 2. And then you can Control Tab away and be able to get at individual tabs again if you like, and then jump back. As far as I know, it only supports vertical splits. And there's something, I don't know how well it comes across in the stream, but there's a very thin line between the top of the content and the tab bar where there's a line, if there are multiple tabs that are selected, that shows you which tab is connected to the region that's currently focused. In my version of this, my version of the theme, I changed the color on that a little bit. I don't think that's going to come across very well. Is YouTube buffering for you, or is that just for me because it hates me? If that didn't go through, the answer to the question is multi-tab selection only supports vertical splits. If there's a way to do it horizontally, I've never seen anything happen. But I think that's because it would be very hard to tell which tab was the one that had the focus. Yeah, it may be being a gigantic turd still. I mean, I stream at a higher bitrate on Twitch, and it's not a problem there with lower latency, so I'm not entirely sure. In theory, I can stop the stream and restart it, but I don't know how well that works from this perspective over here. I don't think I can change to like a lower latency or something. How frequently is it? Quite a bit, huh? It's funny you say that, because over here it says that it's actually not getting any data at all, despite the fact that it's still showing me live. Huh. Let's see. I don't think I can change the encoder settings. If it's only happening infrequently, that's one thing. I noticed it happening only one time myself, but it could be different for different people. Let's see. It would be in here, wouldn't it? Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to swap that. I may have to switch back to low latency for future streams to see if that might solve that particular problem, because it seems to be an issue for what it's doing. Actually, hang tight. I'll be back in just 1 second. Just doing a little bit of a double check that the systems out in the other room aren't doing something a little weird. One laptop didn't go to sleep, so maybe it might be messing up the network a little bit. I pushed buttons. We'll see what happens. So let's see. What was it that we were doing here? Well, one thing was I could have swore I had bindings for this, but I don't. So here's here's an example of the sort of stuff that I do to configure my own system at times. Here's what we're trying to do. I'm just going to stick this over there for the time being. The idea that we want to have here is that when we execute this build system, which is terminus open, that the build gets carried to a pane to the right. And that's actually something that is easy to do, I think. We'll see what happens here. Here's an example of the same thing using terminus exec, which puts it in a panel at the bottom of the window, but we don't want it in a panel at the bottom of the window. We want it stuck off to the right, and I do not have the thing that I want in there either. Let's see. Probably no good way to get around doing this without actually looking at documentation. Indeed, reticulating splines. Anybody familiar with SimCity 2000, where I totally snagged that joke? Here's what we do. We go to, we say terminus readme, get the readme for this bad boy, because I cannot remember off the top of my head what the thing is that we're actually looking for here. Post window hooks. Yeah. This is what we're looking for to put inside of our build. And we would throw it like, yeah. But we're going to leave well enough alone for, whoops, that, because what we're going to do is this to turn on logging, and then pick selection, tab selection, select to right. And the command is named select to right, so that's not terribly earth-shattering. So what if we just put select to right here, like this? And we don't need any arguments in this. We turn off command logging before we go quietly insane. I can never remember if it's post-window hooks or post-window commands. Which does not seem... Oh, and you know what? That should be the correct command, I would imagine. Whoops. So that'll totally do the thing, but the build doesn't actually do the thing, which is interesting. I'm guessing that probably, yeah. That would definitely not do what we want because it triggers before anyway, but the interesting thing about that is I was pretty sure, whoops, that we were going to need our own custom plugin for this anyway, because even if this worked and you could select the tab to the right, you really only needed to do it once unless the tab to the right isn't already selected. If the tab to the right is already selected, then it shouldn't do anything, and I don't know what the command does in that particular case. If there were 4 tabs here and I was in this one and I did select to right and then I did select to right, I end up with a 3rd tab in here, which is not what we want, right? So in order for that to work, it would need to know if there's already a selection, or it would need to clear the tab selection before it creates a new one. Neither of those is particularly hairy as far as these things go. But oh, actually, I should be drinking the tea first. The tea's in an open container. If you're new to the stream, we drink a lot of coffee, we drink a lot of tea, even though it is currently 8:30 at night for me. We create a new plugin, and we want a window command for this one. Terminus select right command, for example, and that will be a window command, and it's not going to get an edit. And what would we say something in here like sublime.set timeout and self.window.run command select to right with no timeout, for example. Whoop. 9 p.m., 9 a.m. This is why every time I'm on a stream, I never tell, good morning, good evening, and good night. Adding the delay like this. Night, Dwayne. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you on a future stream. We'll be streaming on Twitch tomorrow and Friday as well, doing all sorts of coding stuff. I also answer Sublime Text questions there as well. Pardon me. Cool. Now what if you run it again? Potential issue. Ben, hello, welcome. How's things? We probably want to put a tag in there too. Oops. How is the time of day at which it is currently at your local situation? I am twitch.tv/odatnerd. If there's a place and I'm there, I will be there under that name. Boop. And for future reference, if Tuesday streams go all wonky like they did last Tuesday, I tend to just jump over to Twitch. Yeah, it has been... It has been astoundingly busy just from my perspective as a guy that peruses all of the issues crossing the issue tracker, let alone being someone that actually has to do something with them. Has there been an official read on why enter in the go to anything doesn't seem to work for people except in safe mode? Because at least one person swears that they don't have an override on default key bindings, and they don't have any other bindings in their user bindings, but I can't see how that could possibly be the case if it works in safe mode. Oh, right. I guess we need to go that the other way, don't we? As a fun turn of events. Is it always that? And it really seemed like that would be the case to me too. There's at least one person on the forum that said that they don't have any default overrides, but that's one of those situations like where for a period of several years, not just 1 year, but several years, the Montreal Stock Exchange, when we hit the time of year where daylight savings time goes, would have, twice a year, would have their system do the wrong thing. Like it would open all of the markets an hour early or an hour late, depending on which way the time shift changed. And every single time for a period of years that happened, we would contact them and say, hey, the markets are opening at 9 o'clock in the morning, but they should be opening at 8 o'clock in the morning. And their response was always, we can't verify that on our end. And then the next day, everything was all fixed, which is only mildly sketchy, right? Oh, interesting. That would make that the very first instance of someone doing that on purpose, I think. Yeah. Sublime is primarily written in C, indeed. The Python's only used for plugins. And even at that, not all commands are written in Python. For example, earlier today, someone wanted the source to the command for closing a tab because they don't want it to find like image tags and list item tags to close. But that command seems to be in the core. I know that it's technically possible to do that. The only reason I could think of to make an override on all of the only reason I can think of to create an override on the default key bindings is twofold, and I think I mentioned them in a forum post. One is for people that have like keyboard layouts that aren't US for a while, and I don't know if that's even still the case now. Maybe with this build it's better, that keys aren't in the same position on their keyboard as they are on other keyboards, so default key bindings don't work. So there was like people passing around for a while custom key bindings to sort of remap things to where they might be on like say a Russian keyboard layout. I can see someone doing something like that in order to get stuff, make all of the key bindings all at once, swap. And I know that there's at least a couple of people that I've encountered in all my years of Sublime who it just really bugs the hell out of them that if they don't want Control Q once they remap it, once they map quit to like Control R instead of Control Q, that Control Q could still conceivably run that command. But yeah, I figured it probably was, but that's not a problem that I've ever technically had. That said, that would be the first time that I've ever knowingly run across somebody that actually overrode a complete default package of some sort. In this case, actually default by putting it in installed packages instead. I think someone like Rwalls mentioned on the Discord earlier, maybe we shouldn't have the ability to override packages and we should just be able to put files in user, but I don't think that's a particularly good idea because then you don't have any way to modify the contents of a package short of modifying it directly and then having your changes disappear away. I think everybody should be using override on it because it would totally have popped up a big red X with, hey, this file is 4 years old. You probably don't want to do this. The real fun thing is if you had the entire default package overridden, how long did you ride using Sublime Text 3 with like bugs in the exec plugin and other things that were fixed in there that just never went anywhere? That would be so whack. What's happening here? Oops. Oh, whoops, I can't spell. That's what's happening there. Kind of wonder why that wasn't the correct color. Yeah, I doubt that Terminus would ever be shipped with Sublime, and I also doubt that LSP would ever be shipped with Sublime either. Lest somebody answer that particular question. I think the Ben and the other devs have enough issues to track just in the core without also having to chase down weird LSP problems related to funky servers doing weird stuff. I was seeing something different happening there, but maybe that's just because I was stupidly doing that the wrong way. More delay. Did we not get that to work one time? Yeah, I was doing, I think the one time without delay, like none at all, even without that. There was one time where it actually worked, but it didn't work the second time, and that always makes me mildly nervous, don't you know? Like that, for example. I, for one, would totally throw my keyboard at the screen for a Sublime HQ version of a terminal emulator. On the other hand, there are a lot of them, and that Windows terminal thing actually comes fairly close to what I would imagine something like that would be, although I can't remember offhand if it has a command palette. So you're saying that when you do this with one command select to left, that it actually properly does that? Well, I would agree with that statement. People, there's a few things that people constantly ask about Sublime where I really want to say stuff like, why you want to bloat my editor and make it all full of stuff? I like it better when you add stuff on. But by the same token, I don't understand why, if there's something that would be implemented in Python anyway and is a package where it's literally as easy as saying tools, install package, well, wherever the hell that command is here. I'm so used to using the keyboard. There's like a... In any case, it's so easy to... It's like a two-click thing to use package control to install something. Why is it a better experience to just have that bundled with Sublime by default? I don't understand that. Oh, yeah. You think is it the tag that's doing stuff, do you think? That's an idea. It needs to be select to left though, right? Because that tab opens and it takes the focus. So it needs to focus the one to the left. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to play with Windows Terminal as much as I would like, because most of the time if I'm doing anything Windows related, I'm doing it on my work computer here, and it can't run Windows Terminal because it's too criminally old. Let's just double check that I haven't done something stupid. All right, well, maybe I did something stupid. Maybe I did something real stupid. Yeah, I did. Haha. That's irony. I can see that. I wasn't kidding when I said that I've been getting a lot of questions from people lately telling me, convince me to buy Sublime Text 4 or convince me to upgrade. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to convince you to do that. Everybody's tool is unique to them. You have to decide for yourself if you want to. All I can do is tell you the stuff that it can do. It's up to you to make that decision. Yeah, there's a reason why that didn't work, and it's because I'm a moron. So I'm going to do this. But I did do select to left in there instead of select to right, because when the tab opens, it always opens to the right and it takes the focus. But it didn't work for me without a delay. Well, I mean, there's no delay here. This is just sort of deferring it to the next loop. Is that what you mean by no delay? Truly, no delay would be putting select to left in here. Whoops. How the hell did that happen? That's weird. All right. I could have swore that I tried that before, but I must have had it the other way. That makes that nice, but we probably still need a plugin for that anyway, because what happens if you do this? You end up with multiples of them stacking, but we could get around that perhaps by having the tag in there. The other thing that I thought was weird related to the upgrade is people that were unhappy that the upgrade fee is $70, which is twice what they paid originally, which sounds to me like someone has a Sublime Text 2 license that, you know, they're must have had for years, because I've had my license since 2016 and I paid $80, so I don't know when it was $50 before that, but whenever it was, it's been a hell of a long time. It's a sort of time and past for the price to jump up. I'm not surprised at all that the price is now on par with Merge. No. There we go. Whoops. I may have not wanted to do that. This is why we possibly want to have a little bit of a plug-in associated with this thing. I personally don't use vintage mode, or if you want to use Vim key bindings or VI key bindings, I would recommend the Neo Vintages package. It seems to be the preeminent way to go for something like that. But personally, I don't use VI key bindings, even though I am very proficient in Vim, just because I like to keep my editors separate. What doesn't happen for you? If you have the build set to select to left, you don't get a new select to left every time, because that's exactly what I would expect to have happen. Every time the command runs, it selects the tab to the left, so it's just going. over and over and over. You'd have to break the selection first. I'm going to rename this. Actually, let's call it terminus split build command. Can you, I was going to say, can you reproduce that in safe mode? But then you totally have to install terminus in safe mode. That might be a bit of a butt. But no, that it does that, and I'm not surprised, because what it's essentially doing is when I type build, it creates this tab, and then it's doing tab selection, select to left. So this adds, and now if I was to build again, this one would have the focus, and then when it does tab selection, select to left, it's adding a tab to the left. If you have more than one tab open, like it wouldn't do that if this was the layout. I don't think. In that case, there's nothing to the left for it to add, but if there's a tab to the left, whoops, crap. If there's a tab to the left of it, then there is something for it to select left into. Try it with an extra tab open to the left of the Python file too. But I can't even be mad that the upgrade price would be $80 at this point, because the license that I had was so old that, I mean, and I did the math on that, and at like $80 over a 3-year period, that's like $2.66 a month or something like that. And I spend more than that every day buying a coffee because I'm an idiot. So all I have to do is buy one less coffee every month for 3 years. And I've paid for what is the most used tool in my arsenal for everything text related. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I do know that, you know, like I said, different tools for different people, different price points for different people. I'm not saying that it is a pittance of money. Certainly, you know, that's not the case for everybody. But the way people talk about it sounds like they could purchase it if they want to, but they're not going to, because how dare somebody ask them to spend money a second time in 7 years? Ashwin, hello, welcome. How is your day going so far? We're just talking about Sublime Text. We're building up a little tiny plugin, which is incorrectly named, to... that's right. This actually works without that, right? Let's fix said plugin. To do a split build using multiple selected tabs. This is the file we want to have over here. And yeah, we don't need the timeout on this. It seemed like we did initially, but I was probably doing something dumb. But we actually need one other command in here first. Just to be sure. Something like that, perhaps. Unselect to the left, then select to the left. I'm gonna try that one and see how that works. It actually wasn't too shabby of a day because morning meetings were canceled. Yeah. All right. Unselect others. It is. Really seems like that should be a thing. As a result of no meetings, we actually managed to get some stuff done. Not as much stuff as we should have been able to get done. I was tasked with testing something that was installed into a Docker container launched by Kubernetes behind 3 different levels of reverse network proxy and some sort of fake zip or nip or something domain. And somebody, I think, didn't set up the reverse proxy properly to allow WebSocket traffic through. But it's really hard to nail down people on the team whose job it is to deploy containers to the cloud, because then they might actually have to do something or something. I'm not sure. Is it just me, or is that just not doing what one might expect to have happen here? Is that not what that, I mean, I'll happily copy it. Looks like it's correct. I did not turn the sound off on my phone, pardon me. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of that. I have been kept quite busy with a variety of other things as well, including the video that went off yesterday. Also, it turns out that all of the videos that I have on the channel relating to Sublime Text 4 are really doing me a service now, because now that Sublime Text 4 is out, people are going to YouTube in droves and searching for Sublime Text 4, and I seem to be one of the top hits. Your build file should be adjacent to the Python file. Why should that matter? I should be able to do this as much as I want. Whoops. I should be able to build this and then, oh, hang on a second. I should be able to build this and then build it again. Okay, but where did the tag? Oh, honestly, I swear. I am undoing things more than I need to this eventide. This should work like this. If this tab is anywhere within a pile of tabs, I should be able to build and then also build and keep getting the same action out of it. Yeah, but if Terminus creates this tab and takes the focus, it needs to select to the left, right? Is it? Oh, that's extra exciting. There was a little, in my YouTube dashboard this morning, there was a little rocket ship that I'd never seen there before because channel views went up 77% overnight. Oh man. Here's the theory of this. Use the stupid plugin command, derp. That's the second time I've done that. Terminus split build. It turns out that if you run the wrong command 9 times out of 10, it's going to run the wrong command. In fact, maybe even 10 times out of 10. Here we go. There we go. That's what we want. So that is a pretty simple way to do that. Yeah, soon I'll have some competition when Ben Frayne puts out his course. Oh, I totally forgot. I totally could have done a thing here. I could have said, did you know that if you don't call a command, it won't get called? Surprise! I just that button never gets old. You know what I'm saying? It never gets old. So there we have that. Now, not too shabby. And so because of this, we technically actually don't need a plugin here, right? The bot that does that isn't in this channel, sadly. But I can do this. I think. Or Nightbot is just horribly, horribly lagged. So there we go. I forgot Nightbot can still do that. Probably fights with Obot Nerd in Twitch. Okay, so yeah, we don't actually need that in here. So basically, all we really need is whoops. We don't need that anymore. We need that, and then we copy that, and then we just sort of do a little bit of this action, right? Whoops, probably could have done that a little bit of a smarter. That is all you need in a build for something like that, right? And you definitely want to have a tag in there to make sure that that will work for you. And then no matter how many tabs there are to the left or how many tabs there are to the right, when you build, it always does that. That's actually a lot more seamless than doing it with Terminus, I think. Particularly because I actually have a split. There's a file that's hiding here under the chat. So the other thing that I actually want to fix here, and the reason that I have that file open, is that if this one has the focus, I can't switch tabs away because it's basically eating the key bindings for that. So I could have swore I actually had this already in here, but I must have it only on a different computer and not on this one. We'll just go ahead and cram that into here. So that'll still do what we want, at the risk of not being able to use Alt and a key binding. But I think I'm okay with that as far as these things go. So yeah, that's extra cool. I thought that a plugin might actually be required for that, but totally not. All you really need is those two post window hooks and a tag. I'm imagining if you don't have the tag, then it'll still work, but you'll stack up your bash and have multiples of them, which could potentially be handy. The magic of that is that the way that indentation works right now is, sorry, the way that folding works right now is indentation based, which means that if we were to open, let's say, jump over to this thing here, the way that this works is this is folding everything that's at this indentation level or higher. So if there's only one thing, you can't really fold it anymore. Or two things, sorry. Can't remember exactly how that works out. Or if the indented level isn't enough. The magic of having it be syntax based would allow it to do things like if you were doing something in C, that when you fold this up, it would fold everything up between there and the matching brace, because that's how that block works in the syntax, even if everything was all in one thing. So if this was syntax based and not indent based, this arrow would still be here. Whoops. And it would all like work out for us. Right now it's not doing that because there's only one line under there for it to indent. There has to be at least two for it to indent. Something that has been asked for quite some time, I think. It'd be interesting to see how that is implemented, because I would imagine, if I had to guess, something along the lines of what? A special scope that you apply to things that should theoretically be things that allow you to indent, and then metadata that indents between them. But that wouldn't work for something like Python. So yeah, in getting proper support for indent stuff in general in the syntax in Python is problematic in its own right. I know there's like a lot of tricks that the thing is using, because white space isn't generally significant. I don't do a ton of stuff related to that sort of thing, though. No, I guess we don't need that. I wrecked it. And what was the other file that we had here? I blew that totally away. Python selection. So yeah, you want those three things and you want to have that. So I got to find the actual question that someone asked on YouTube, and then we can actually provide them the answer to that, which would have gone a lot smoother had I not been a big dork. Bracket highlight. I don't use bracket highlighter. It might have some action like that. Is it possible to open a web browser inside Sublime? Well, that depends. I mean, can't type tonight. That's right. That one. Yes. In that regard, yes. If you want it to be embedded in a window, no. Though keep in mind, this is possible now. Keeping in mind that this only uses and supports mini HTML, which isn't a full subset of HTML. Yeah. I fall into the same camp as Ashwin, and I'm assuming Ben when it comes to the idea that I think he might have said something like that. I don't want to put words in his mouth. Don't quote me on that. That correct application for the job at hand is what you want. That whole idea of embedding one application in another application reminds me of COM and OLE from way back in the early days of my programming career, and that even Microsoft kind of ejected that idea from Windows and all of their applications, if I recall correctly, in favor of doing it a different way. Maybe not, though. I haven't seen anybody talk about it in a long time. Could Sublime allow such plugins to be created? Yeah, I mean, I suppose if there was some sort of sheet that required you to render into it, you could maybe do something. I don't know why you would want to do a thing like that, though. No, yeah, Ashwin said the same thing. Why do you want to have a web browser that's in a tab inside of Sublime? Because, like, if I wanted to have this if this was a web page, if I wanted to see this and Chrome at the same time, I would do this. Now I have both of them on the screen at the same time. They don't have to be part of the same application. Am I still allowed to size this after I did that? Yes, I am. Excellent. That's just my take on it, though. I'm not a super fan of one application embedding other applications and having that sort of functionality in it. It's not Pythonic to run a web browser to run web pages and a text editor to edit text files. I would argue the fact that it kind of is, but again, coming back to the thing that I said earlier, and I say on a very regular basis, different people want different tools, and what those tools do is very specific to people as well. So I'm not here to say that anybody's idea is good or bad. It's just not something that I personally would find useful. And in that regard, I weigh things like that in the realm of, if there's one fewer developer for Sublime now than there was before, unless Will has been replaced by somebody and we haven't been told. So do we want the developers that are already there to have the burden of creating new features that will benefit more people and also support a multi-platform way to embed a browser into a tab just so that we don't have to run two applications? And then you get into that whole, well, which browser is it? Somebody's going to want to use Internet Explorer or Edge while someone else is using Chrome, and somebody's going to want to have the Brave browser in there instead because that's the one that they're used to using. That's a lot of code paths multiplied by a lot of different platforms and architectures. I don't know about that. I don't think that I've been on record as saying this before. The only thing that Sublime HQ can do in my mind that would make me not want to use it is to switch to the kind of license scheme where you pay money to use it, and at the end of the period, if you don't keep paying, you no longer have access, including to versions that you've already had before. I'm very old-fashioned about a lot of things, and thinking that I get something vaguely tangible for my money is one of them. It's the reason why I don't use IntelliJ products anymore, for example. But apart from that, I mean, if there was features in that I don't tend to use, I don't think that would be, I mean, yeah, that wouldn't stop me from using Sublime. There would just be a feature in it that I don't use. It hasn't been deprecated yet? What the hell, man? Hasn't Edge been around for years now at this point? The real question is, what's my company going to do? Because they're using a bunch of web pages on the internet that are full of ActiveX controls. And we have to have really old versions of Internet Explorer to get those to work. While we discuss that stuff, does anybody have any other questions about stuff or things that we could play with here? I'm just going to try to go to the YouTube studio and find the person who asked that particular question and provide them an answer. Incidentally, I mentioned not in this last week's video, but the video before, that maybe the Git stuff would arrive around about the time we hit the 2,000 subscriber mark. That wasn't taking into account the fact that subscribership blows up when a new version of Sublime Text shows up and you're the top hit in YouTube for talking about it, because it's probably going to happen a lot sooner than that video is going to happen. Let's see. If I was comments, where would I be? How can we make custom icons for the File Explorer? This is a bad thing to test it in. When I made that video, I had 114 fewer subscribers than I have now. According to the magic subscriber graph, I got 100 more subscribers in the last 28 days than I normally do. You mean these things over here? Yeah, this specifically is file icons. I forgot I did that in a different window. Dang it all to heck. Oh, it's all going off the rails, man. There's two of them, one that are color and one that aren't. This is the package that I'm using here. There's also, if you want to have more icons in this than there are, it has instructions on how to do that too. It's up to you to come up with the actual icon though. I personally am a fan of, well, I'm not clicking the wrong thing. These particular ones here. A file icon specifically. I didn't use one for a really long time. I just always use the icons that are built in. But I was playing around with, what was it, Monakai Pro or something. When Mariana switched to be the color scheme, I looked to see maybe Monakai Pro has more scope support, and it also obnoxiously comes with a theme that destroys icons. So I investigated this to repair that problem, and then just decided, you know what, I actually like these things. Let's go ahead and just keep using them. How to use tab split view in a build system to open build result in a new tab. Which Sublime Text Live are we in right now? 96. I should not have closed that window. Are you going to work now? No, you're not, are you? I didn't think you were. We'll leave well enough alone on that one for the time being. Oh, gotta find that window. Change the tag to boom. Making icons is more of a design thing and not Sublime related. Yeah, I am in no way, shape, or form fit to create icons, but oh, I already closed that window, right? The README for the package tells you exactly what you need to add in what place to add icons. If you want to add something to a file that doesn't already have something in place. I don't know if this is still the case, but the two choices for creating icons here are file icons, where you can get monochrome ones or not, and these are the colored ones, or a file icon. But I think a file icon has a plugin in it that generates files out into your packages folder, and this one doesn't. It's a little cleaner. That's why I choose this one. But I think the icons are the same either way. I can't quite remember at this point. All right. Well, that went swimmingly. How's the buffering been? Did it clear itself up? YouTube has decided that my connection is in fact excellent again, which is nice. Watch time in hours is up 100%, and views are up quite a bit too as well. That's exciting. More people are seeing my stuff. I will say that that video that came out yesterday was a real epic undertaking all into itself. So I'm glad that most people seem to be liking it and what it has to say, because it took quite a while. I mentioned earlier, I actually, for a while, was collecting bits of recorded footage to use in a video like that, and I was very tempted to try to unmothball some of it, but some of it was from back while I was still creating videos here and not in that spot, and Sublime looked a little bit different then than it did here, and I didn't really like, I wanted it to be more cohesive. Yeah, I usually don't spend a lot of time looking at the sidebar, generally speaking, except on streams when we're working on stuff like this. If I'm working on something that has a lot of stuff, then I do like to be able to see the structure of things. But more often than not, what I'm working on is more simple and flat, and I don't really need to have the sidebar in there. But I do like. I gotta say that the icons for things have been growing on me for a little bit. Have I ever used the original Sublime Text? No, the builds of Sublime that I have only go back to Sublime Text 2. The latest version of Sublime Text 2. When I jumped on in 2016, April or something of 2016 was the first build. We were in build 3050 something, I think. So I've only been using Sublime for, was it like 5 years now? Somebody mentioned that, I think it was Ashwin, Sublime Text 1 actually had a tab bar on the top, or not a tab bar, a toolbar along the top. I've never seen that, but I routinely run Sublime Text 3 when I'm answering questions for people in other places that are still using Sublime Text. Like Sublime Text 4 has been my daily driver since November of 2019 when the first build came out. At that point, I switched to pretty much primarily using Sublime Text 4 through all of those builds. That was build 4050, so it's been slightly over 50 builds that have come out in the last, was it like year and a half before the builds were officially public. But I do still have Sublime Text 3 installed because often, during the beta period, definitely people would ask questions about stuff, and I want to make sure that the answers that I give, I never say anything, and well, I'll never say never. If you see me give an answer for something and I don't specifically say, I haven't tested this or this isn't tested, but then you know that I didn't type it in there without trying it myself first to make sure that it would actually work for me. So for that reason, I keep copies of Sublime Text 3 around to help people that send me emails or direct messages or private messages on the Discord or in comment section on YouTube and so on. Windows only? Yeah, there we go. That would probably be why I did not pull it. Yeah, I figured I probably discovered that. I don't have every version of Sublime Text 2 like I do for Sublime Text 3. I'm sort of infamous in that I have every build of Sublime Text 3 that is available on the download server for Linux and for Windows, but not for Mac OS, because although I do have a Mac and it's over there, I don't tend to use it a ton for things. I'm more of a Linux guy with a Windows side than Mac OS. And that Mac was a company Mac that was given to me as part of a project I was working on. If it ever dies, I wouldn't replace it unless suddenly MacBooks started being 80% cheaper than they are right now, basically because I don't use it all that much. I do use it to test stuff I'm doing. Oh my goodness. Someone subscribed to the channel and I actually have a notification for that. And Edgar, hello. Thank you so much for the subscription, assuming that is the correct one. I've had that set up for a long time. I didn't know that that was actually a thing that would work. But yeah, I don't have all the builds for Sublime Text 2 because Sublime Text 3 was the one that was active when I started, and I think Sublime Text 2 had already been out of support for quite some time at that point. And Sublime Text 1, I would guess that I probably never bothered because if I was looking around on the download page, I would have been on my Linux box and I wouldn't have been able to run it. I also have a vague recollection of Will mentioning the same thing. Whoops. Similarly, I have every copy of Merge that's ever existed as well, because you can never have too much stuff when it comes to copies of things. Have you ever tried Chrome OS? I don't know if you can see it, but the table back there has a gray laptop on it, and this one right here that sits underneath are both Chromebooks. This one has the chat on it, although I tend to look over there and not down here. So yes, as a matter of fact, on both of the Chromebooks they're running Intel processors, I have Sublime Text and Sublime Merge installed on both of them. Which reminds me, I need to update this one. Now that there's actually a package for it, I could remove the tarball and put the actual Debian in there, because I think it runs like Ubuntu or something as the Linux, the crostini. Is that what it's called? Always makes me hungry. But yeah, I like Chrome OS for what it is. One of the things I use it for is watching YouTube videos. As a matter of fact, I have a wireless headset, and I can carry it around the house with me while I'm watching video. While I'm watching videos, I can be like, doing dishes or stuff like that, and carry it around with me. Making lunch during work days, on days when I am allowed the luxury of making a lunch that's not just grabbing something from the fridge and running back to the desk for another meeting. Oh, righty. How are we doing on time here? We're about 20 minutes away from the 2-hour limit on the stream. Does anybody else have a question or an example for a plugin type thing that you might be interested in playing around with that we can fiddle with here? A package that we should perhaps try to play with to create a video for? Oh, my goodness. I'm still in mild recovery mode from stuff on the weekend. Like I mentioned earlier, I spent all day yesterday, right up until about an hour before the video dropped, working on that. Basically, everything was laid out except all of the screen capture stuff. So I had to do that and add the transitions and the polish to the video, if you will. And then I relaxed on the couch for a little bit and watched a friend on Twitch and promptly just sort of lolled back and napped. Is there a recommended Sublime setup for Vim bindings? I would recommend... do I have the thing here? Let's see. Oh, I have... You go away, because I need to click this link. I would recommend, if you're interested in having Vim bindings or VI bindings in Sublime, this Neo Vintages package by... Oh, it doesn't say here. I thought it did. Oh, it's by Neo Vintages. All right. This, I believe, is the preeminent version of having Vim support directly in. It implements a lot of stuff. There was one called 6 for a while, but I think it's sort of fallen off the radar now because the author of it is no longer around. Hopefully nothing bad happened to him. He just sort of dropped off the internet, assuming I'm remembering that correctly. And there's at least one thing that actually runs Vim or NeoVim in the background and then talks to it and does what it does, but this is actually a full-on package for Sublime as far as I'm familiar with. If you can implement a feature from another text editor or IDE, what would it be? Well, that's a good question. It's been a long time since I used anything other than Sublime as a code tool, and I don't really find anything missing from Sublime per se. I guess if I had to say something, I think it would be nice if it was possible to create panels on the left or the right and not just at the bottom of the window. I don't know that it's not groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination, and the fact that it doesn't do that doesn't bother me, but I guess probably that. I've had a couple of ideas in the past for things that display in panels that would have been nice if it was a more of a vertical orientation than a horizontal one. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have an example of something that you'd like to see in Sublime besides being able to embed a web browser in it? I don't consider Visual Studio Code having a browser in it being embedded because it's more an actual browser itself that should just be exposing a tab. Ooh, hot dish, hot dish. Check that out. I said I wanted a thing, and now it's actually kind of in the works. That's the power I have as a guy who rambles nonsense on the internet. It's very easy to go off the rails with something like that. I can say that. Hello, Ayush. Welcome to the stream. How's your morning going? For example, JetBrains can easily get itself into a situation where there's like 4 panels on the left, all top and bottom, and then there's 3 on the right, and then there's 2 on the bottom, and then there's like room for 7 characters of text in the middle. Well, I gotta say, one of the very first blog posts that John wrote about Sublime was all about putting the focus on the text that you're editing. Which is why I'm kind of surprised that Sublime Text version 1 had a toolbar in it. And I really enjoy the minimalness, such as it is, of the more space taken up for things. Integrated archive viewer. Well, I mean, that's more of like a file system type thing, right? That sort of falls into the realm of a terminal emulator or a browser as the thing that's going to allow you to look inside of archives in the best possible way is software that's specifically designed for that. And anything that's built into Sublime has to focus on the fact that it's a text editor that's also just looking inside of a zip file or whatever. I don't know that it necessarily fits the design goal. But in theory, I mean, I have in the past done, what was I working on? I think the encryptorizer during one of the Devember streams. You could, if someone opened up a zip file, I don't know if I have any laying around per se. Let's see. Got a lot of stuff in here, yo. If you open up something that's an archive, then you end up with this. But it's easy to tell that this is a hexadecimal file. There's something right down there that tells you that this is hexadecimal encoding. And if this loaded, you could detect that. You could look at the actual file name for this view, find out that it's a zip file, close the tab, open up a new one, and then use the Python libraries for talking to zips to work up the structure of it and show you it here. And in the same way that you can double click on find results, you could set it up so that when you double click on the name of a file in the archive, it actually put it in a temporary file and opened it. So technically something that could be sort of done with a plugin right now if you wanted to do something like that. There might actually be something like that already. Is there a way to specify a build executable with a user-dependent location while also not requiring the user to add the executable to their system path? User-dependent in what way? We had a build system. No. We don't want that. We want this to be the untitled one. This knows where my home directory is. So if you knew that if everybody was on the same operating system, then you could say that put a directory named bin in your, or local bin in your home directory, and then do something with it. That would work. Apart from that, you could make a custom build target, because there's variety of variables that automatically expand, right? Like this expands to the location where packages are stored. This expands to the name of the current file. This expands to the name of the path of the current file. In theory, you can create a custom target that knows how to get at other well-defined locations. If there's environment variables for knowing where those things are, that would work. But you could very easily do something like, let's see if we can whip something out here. Let's say we create a new plugin and we call this my custom build command. And it would be a window command, like so. And then up here, you'd want to do something like from default.exec import exec command actually, and then do this. So that this would be exec command. Exec is the command that's built into Sublime that knows how this is used for executing builds. And there's a little something like this. So you could just easily say variables equals a table, and then we put a variable in here that says, say, downloads. Oops. And you'd give this a name. I'm going to hard code it here, for example. If you wanted to have something download related, clearly you would have Python code here that actually knows how to do something like that. Then you say there's three things that you would have to do this for. One is you would do this for key in shell command, and working dir, I believe, are the things. If key is in keyword args, then keyword args key is equal to sublime dot expand variables. Let's do that real quick. It takes the value and it takes the variables. Check that out. So the value is key_args key, and the variables are variables like this, and then you say super.run. I can never remember how that one actually goes. We'll name that, yeah, sure, untitled. What the hell. Now there's a command called my custom build, so now we can come up here and say target my custom build, and in theory, yeah. Let's try that. Whoops. Right. My bad. Put 2 slashes in front of it. Now it can expand out to that downloads directory using that variable. The reason you have to do this is because inside shell command, command, and working dir variables that are built in, like the ones we saw just a couple of minutes ago, are automatically expanded by Sublime in the build before it calls the command specified in that target here. And if any variable, all variables will expand, even one that it doesn't necessarily know about. Say, for example, downloads, like this. So if you do this, you end up with an empty string, and the reason for that is before this command gets executed, Sublime helpfully expands all the variables. It doesn't know what the value for this is, so it replaces it with an empty string. Then it calls the command. At that point, you can't expand it. So you need to have a $$ to tell Sublime, this is a $, you should leave alone. Don't try to interpret this. But this isn't valid JSON because this is a character escape, and that's not a valid JSON escape, so you need 2 of them. And then that'll all work out. So you could have as many of these as you want. You could have one for documents as well. You know, you could put docs in here and make this documents. And then this could be docs, and then that'll go like that. That's how I would do something like that. You also want to have something like this. Kill true if you do this, so that you can actually cancel a build. I have videos on the channel that talk about advanced custom build targets and how all of this stuff works, but essentially there is a command name exec that is built into Sublime that knows everything it needs to know about finding executables, executing them, displaying their stuff down here. All we're doing is subclassing that command to make our own command and making our own run method that has a little bit of code before it asks the default, the inherited version of this, please do whatever you would normally do. So that is how I would do that. Hopefully that helps OptiBiscuit. Also, welcome to the stream. I would like to know the usage of projects in Sublime. Well, how exactly do you like that sort of thing? Like, for example, whoops. One thing you can do if you have projects associated with stuff is use the quick switch project, which is up here in the project menu. Which is this one here, to find any project that you've recently worked on or have worked on in the past, like say TS Game Engine, and it'll automatically bring that window up in the exact same state that it was before. So if I have some stuff in here that's unsaved, if I want, I can close this project and go to, say, this one. And then if I go back to TS Game Engine again, boop, this is exactly in the state that it was before. Would you like me to put that in a snippet for you, OptiBiscuit? I can drop it in a snippet and link it, if you don't want to have to retype it all out. Also, it's an exercise to the user how you get the values of those particular variables. There's something in Python like expand user. Sorry, os.path.expand user, and that'll work on Windows and Linux as well. So that can be a handy thing to put in those particular paths if you know that it's always going to be in a specific location. I was sort of hard coding it, but you don't need to do it that way. So this is one thing you can do with projects. Another thing is that, oh, sorry, it's in a pane over here. Pardon me. Boop. If you have a project, you can specify folders inside of there that you don't want to show or that you do want to show, and files you don't want to show or files you do want to show. These add on to the system, the variables, the configuration variables of the same name in the default preferences. So if you sometimes want node modules and sometimes not, you can leave them enabled globally and then turn them off in a project, or turn them off and then add them in. That may or may not work. I'm not sure. Sure, let me see if I can find that again. Because one thing I don't have is a window for that. Let's see. What did I name that thing? Do you remember? This is the build system that you want for it, and we want my custom build is this one right here. Let's see. Boop, boop. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. We click this button over here, like so. We say, sample Sublime Sublime plugin for adding custom variables. I'm pretty sure there's something like this on my one of the repositories on my thing as well, but I don't know offhand which one it is, so we're not going to worry about that. Whoops, boop, and that's going to be 4, and that's going to be thus. We'll create a public gist on that one, click the button, wait for GitHub to do a thing, and then we can do yeah. Boop. There you go. So yeah, I have, oh, I don't think the command may work here. Let's see. It may take a while for Nightbot to respond because it seems to be incredibly laggy when it comes to monitoring a YouTube chat. If not, I can throw the actual link in there. But somewhere, I believe on one of the repositories is something like YouTube Sublime or something like that. And there's something in there that goes with the build system videos that are on the channel. There's like a playlist that's about Sublime build systems that has stuff about custom targets and advanced custom targets. That has more videos on all the stuff that you can do with this, and the sample code for those is in that repository somewhere, but I don't know offhand which ones they are. Is there a way to automatically make a build XML file for Ant in the build system? Well, I mean, technically, if you had Python code that could do something like that, yes, but I don't have an example of that myself, no. But by the same sort of token as this, there's a lot you can do with something like this. Keep in mind that you don't actually have to do this. If you wanted to have a command that doesn't actually execute anything external, it's perfectly fine to have it. It has to be a window command and not a text command. But you can specify this to execute, any command, and that'll work. I'd use that for linters in my help thing. So it's entirely possible to have something in here that examines the content. For example, window.folders will tell you all the folders that are currently open in the sidebar. If you're in a window command, that would be self.window.folders. From that, and using the Python API, you could scoot your way through to find all of the, like there's like os.listdir stuff, I think, shows you the contents of a directory. That may or may not recurse. I'm not sure off the top of my head. How to create a project? Yes, as a matter of fact, there is something like that. Let's see. Let's get a video link, shall we? And that is projects and workspaces. This video has everything you might want to know about projects and workspaces. Projects are, again, this file that specifies specific things here. It's going to always have the folders key that has the folders that you have open. You can also do things in here like have build systems. So these build systems are only active while this project is open. So up here in Tools Build System, there's this one up here labeled TS Game Engine. That's this build right here. But if I had a new window, if I looked in that same menu, is it there? No, it's not, because this one doesn't have a project. Other things you can do with this is have settings that apply to a specific project. So in this particular case, I'm working with people that use a tab size of 2. I don't like that. So this project has a tab size of 2. And also I turn trim trailing white space on save off because I'm the only one that has it turned on, and I keep messing up git diffs. Although now with Sublime Text 4, I could make that a little bit better by only modifying them on lines that I modified. But I think way back I tried it and it didn't quite work out. But I'm happy to just sort of leave stuff. This is a couple of reasons why you'd want to have a project. Another reason to do something like this is you can have a color scheme setting in here, and then all the files in a particular project will be a different color scheme than everything else, which is a nice thing to do. You can also create workspaces as well that have nothing to do with a project. So if we created a new window, I could say save workspace as, and we'll store this in my home directory, and we'll call it, untitled in this case. I've already done that previously. We could have a split. We could have a bunch of tabs in here like this. Because this window has a workspace associated with it, we can close the window. Then if we open a new window, we can find untitled in the list and get this back. So if we had files open, even if there was like some content in this that wasn't saved, that's perfectly fine. You go back to untitled and that content is there. In this particular case, you can't edit the project because there isn't one. All this is saving is the window state layout. Projects always have a workspace. Workspaces don't always have a project. I did indeed, yes. The one up there is just a screenshot of the window as a whole. This one, I actually have a color scheme that sets the background color of the window to green for plain text so that I can clear the window completely. Yeah, that thing. Vim in particular seems to be very bad about that if you don't set it to trim trailing white space. I'm not sure if you can, but I find it particularly egregious. I don't know a reason why you would want to have trailing white space in the general case, except in data files. In source code files, I can't see why it's of any use to anybody, but the project that I'm working on right now at work has that ridiculous file. Do I have one in here? This example file here, these lines have trailing white space in them, kinda. They're not supposed to. This file is a file that's supposed to be one gigantic long 128 megabyte line of stuff. It just happens to have been chunked out to 128 characters here. So it's vitally important that trim trailing white space not be turned on in this case, or it'll break the file because these bytes are supposed to be here. Oops. Yeah, I should probably make more use of that. The very first build that had, I should probably pop that file open. Default pref set. Trim trailing white space on save and trim only modified white space. There was some combination of this way back in like the very first build where it came out, where I wanted this to only modify white space on lines that I modified, but it seemed to never do anything. And I never really focused in on it too much because I was doing something else at the time. I think somebody else has reported the same thing. It's probably fixed now. But that's a good build for that. But yeah, there's these. This is a new. This setting did exist in Sublime Text 3. It just has more options now. It used to be yes and no, and now it also has that one and trim only modified white space. Pretty sure that's Sublime Text 4. Hopefully, I'm not lying on that one. Only trim white space on save for parts of the file that have been modified by you. Something that I was going to turn it on because I have coworkers that I want to bang with a sack of oranges sometimes. I never really revisited that though. All else being equal, the code in that project is kind of horribly styled to begin with. So I figured some extraneous trailing white space on a few lines was the least of my concerns, because looking at it makes me very sad. But there was a lot of pushback from other members on the team on using Prettify to style it up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that trim trailing white space on save used to just be a Boolean. As a matter of fact, we can totally just do this. Yeah. That just used to be a Boolean, do it or don't do it. But now we can do it, not do it, and also not on caret, which makes it nicer for save on focus lost and stuff. Which kind of dovetails into that plugin that I whipped up for somebody in the Discord, the very ill-advised plugin of saving the file every time you type a character. It stops you from being able to type anything with a space on the end. Guitarist Tom12, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and for also pointing out that my things actually work. It's kind of exciting. I've had those in there for as long as I've been Twitch streaming or longer, and I've never seen them go off before tonight. I wasn't entirely sure I actually set it up correctly. Oh, did I miss another question back there? Did I make it screenshots? Did it? How to create a project? Is there a video? Got it. Is there a way to automatically make a build XML file? Yeah. So that would be the thing where if you have a custom target, you could do stuff like look at the contents of a file and use that to figure stuff out. I don't know a ton about Ant per se. I have some Ant files that I created a long time ago while I was using Java for stuff, but I haven't used it in probably 8 or 9 years at this point, so I don't necessarily remember. They go off. No, yeah, and Twitch they definitely work. I also have them set up for YouTube as well, but an issue with that per se, which is why I was sort of figured that I couldn't tell if I set them up correctly or not, is that Twitch, you can't hide the fact that you follow somebody, but on YouTube, you can hide the fact that you subscribe to someone. You can make your subscriptions private, and a lot of people do that. So in that case, there is no notification. Like 50 people could have just subscribed just now, and I wouldn't know about it because their subscriptions are hidden, so it doesn't generate an event. That's why those ones here are the default. I've never actually seen them go off before. I think the builds of Sublime Text 4 are getting us some new viewers. Can confirm we're one sub away from 1960, which was a pretty good year. Oh my goodness, how long have we gone here? We've gone for the 2 hours. So I think based on how the temperature in this room is currently 300 degrees, if nobody else has a question, we might call it a stream for tonight, because I am still recovering from not getting much sleep on the weekend. But I will be streaming tomorrow and Friday on Twitch. Same time as this stream, I just do it on a different thing. We do all kinds of coding on those streams, not necessarily just a Sublime Text plugin stuff, but needless to say, if you have any questions about Sublime and you pop into those streams, I will answer them. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't do a raid here right now. I'm sure that's probably a feature that YouTube is going to be adding at some point, because they are adding clips. I haven't been selected to be one of the lucky channels that has clips just yet, but they're slowly trying to overtake Twitch in all things Twitch. So I'm sure it's only a matter of time. But we got a build. We answered a few questions here. That's so cool. We figured out easily how to create a build system that will use Terminus and multi-select to be able to, or tab selection rather, to be able to have a split view using a tab, which worked amazingly well once we actually started running the commands that we intended to run in the first place. That was a little bit embarrassing, but we also created a custom build and helped somebody with some some other questions, which are sort of failing me at the moment because I am kind of tired. I still have a little bit of coffee left. Does not make me awake. So yeah, we're gonna call it. We will be back, of course, next Tuesday, right here. I may bump the latency on the stream back just a titch because ultimate low latency seems to cause buffering issues and weirdness. But we'll see you in that stream or see you in one of the other streams. And oh, Dusan Spasic, thank you so much for the kind words. I gotta say, very overwhelmed by how awesome the Sublime Text community is with all of this stuff. Truly, these videos and the channel could not exist without you guys out there asking the questions and providing the support. Yeah, it's the Twitch streams happen at 8 p.m. Pacific, which is the same time that this stream started 2 hours ago. They tend to go for longer. Specifically on Friday, a stream could go for as long as 4 hours because I don't have to work the next day. But during the Tuesday and Wednesday streams, I do. So I do try to sort of rein it back a little bit. We're probably going to be doing a little bit of game development stuff too, working some more on the drop game before we dive into some more API stuff. It's probably going to be fun. Thank you. As long as people are watching them, I shall keep creating them. It is fun. Despite the fact that I mentioned that I spent all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and most of Monday, plus some of Thursday and Friday, getting this week's video ready. It's a labor of love. What was Ben saying would have made into the SD4 release? The ability to have panels open on the sides instead of only at the bottom was something that is sort of kind of in the works and would have been in Sublime Text 4, but it would have pushed the release back significantly. So, if you want the scoop on cool stuff coming to Sublime Text 4 before you hear it anywhere else, this stream might be the place to do that. Yeah, it was panels at the bottom of the window. I would push the button to show you, but you can't see them because this actually isn't a Sublime window. It's just an overlay on top of my camera. But we also learned about the chain command coming here as well. So, exciting times are ahead for that. Now I have to think of what it was that I was building that would have liked to have had a vertical panel if there's going to be a potential to have one in the future. Oh, and another subscription. I think that's going to take us right up to 1960. That is pretty fantastic. Unfortunately, I can't read it on the chat, but thank you so much for the subscription there. And yeah, I think we're going to call it. So, the summary of what's coming to Sublime. Well, if I did a video yesterday on everything that, well, not everything that's new, a bunch of stuff that's new in Sublime Text 4. There's still, if we wanted to go through the changelog of that, I could be making weekly videos for the next year and a half. That doesn't work here either, unfortunately. But it was mentioned that panels normally only appear at the bottom of the window currently, like the build output of standard builds. It sounds like it might be in the works at some point in the future to have those panels be able to open on the side of the window as well. Maybe that even means that the sidebar could be moved to the right-hand side instead of the left. Who can say? I don't know. It really seems to cheese people off that it's on the left and not on the right. So maybe that's a thing. But that's not something that anybody said. So that's just me guessing on that particular thing. Or a split view in a panel. That might be interesting. Yeah. That could be. Yeah, I've never had a problem with the sidebar being on the left. A lot of the time, I don't even actually have it open. I want to have as much screen as possible devoted to the text. So unless I'm actively navigating around, I leave it turned off. I think the argument that people have is because it's on the left, when it comes in, it pushes everything to the right. And then when you hide it, it pushes everything to the left. And that makes a visual disruption. Whereas if it was on the right, lines would just get shorter and things wouldn't seem to jump around. Which kind of makes sense, but I've never really found it to be that jarring personally. All right, I better get out of here, or I'll just spend the whole night chatting. Because there's one thing I love about streaming: it's chatting with the audience. We're gonna call it here. Thank you so much for everybody who showed up. We'll see you in the next one, or perhaps in one of the Twitch streams, or I have my own Discord as well. In addition to the Sublime Text Discord, you could pop in there and continue the chat there as well. So with that, I'm going to reach my finger down here and say thank you. Distraction-free mode and full screen mode. I use that a fair bit as well myself when I need the maximum of space. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Let's see if my finger will press the button.